We're in the process of getting to the point that our life and our health are becoming more concerning than ever before. As we continue to look at what's going on in life and what's going on within sickness at this point of January 3rd, 2022, and we're looking at isolation, we're looking at pandemics, we're looking at things that man says is the only way we can handle it is through a vaccine. Vaccines are very important. Some of them get really great in information and help and keep us alive. Others we don't know. But what I'm going to share with you today, it's actually a safer, cheaper, healthier herbal equivalents to prescription and over-the-counter drugs. And my introduction to you is going to be about a gentleman who wrote the book, The Green Pharmacy. My goal in this time spending with you is that we want to find out what we can do to have a better quality of life and investigate what God has for us in the plants. Yes, you need to be careful. You're looking at a guy that wrote this book, James A. Duke, worked for the Department of Agriculture, traveled the world over, and his goal was to find plants that cured and keep us alive. There's some excitement in his life that was great. He made major breakthroughs in how plants, and even had people within the medical looking for the active ingredient in the plants that they had and what was it that made a difference. And I'll share a couple of those ideas and concepts with you on this program. You may want to take a pencil and paper and have it available when I get to that point and write the names of some of the herbal products. And folks, we're looking, when you start looking at plants, I think he said there was over like 300,000 plants that to investigate. They came up with active ingredients in some of them that helped with different types of things that cause the body to not be able to perform. The body, let me back up on that. He found things that were in the active ingredients that help the body overcome certain problems, difficulties, diseases, and he talks to you from a person that's looking at the chemistry of the plant for what it has to offer us that are looking to a way of saying, look, is it okay if I just check this out because it's from a plant? And then all of a sudden, what happened was the food items were starting to become items of healing. So if that's the case, then they want to put them in a category of a drug. Therefore, the only way you can emit a drug would be for the doctor to write a prescription for that. And so it would be a medicine because it cured, and therefore it was not a herbal product anymore. Therefore, it fell into being talked about in the medical establishment and pharmakeia. So just let you know that little bit about that. But in here, let's see what it says on the back. Many diseases and conditions for which we turn to modern medicine can also be treated naturally with healing herbs, medicinal foods, and other natural remedies. And these treatments can be safer, less expensive, and possibly even more effective than traditional methods. Let Dr. James Duke, the world's leading authority on healing herbs, lead you through the vast world of natural remedies. From anise for asthma to violet for varicose veins, and everything in between, with just a few trips to the natural health food store, the supermarket, or your own backyard. And with the help of Dr. Duke, you'll have everything you need to create your own natural medicine cabinet. The Green Pharmacy is a tour de force by the world's leading authority on the herbal healing traditions, a treasure house of practical advice for newcomers and pearls of wisdom for the herbal practitioner. That is written by Dr. Joseph E. Pizzano, ND, president of Bastyr University, and the author of Total Wellness. There's another comment made by Dr. Mark J. Plotkin. If you are bewildered by the books that have been published on healing with herbs, this is one to buy. And then Gene Caper, best-selling author of Miracle Cures, filled with gems of wisdom, a treasure of information from a man who knows as much as anyone in the world about medicinal plants. So that's kind of the break into, open the cover of the pages, start getting into the depth of what can be there. And what I'm going to do is I am going to go to the part in here, and this has to do with choosing herbs for healing. There's a lot of herbs in here. There's a lot of information about what they have historically been able to accomplish. But I'm going to go straight to the chapter on cancer prevention. It's on page 135 in this particular edition of the book. And when I give you some figures on some of how long this has been going on, please be aware that this book goes back to 1997, I think. I'm going to go back and check. Yes. Copyrighted 1997. So if you take that and you add the basically 25 years since this was published, if he says this has been 20 years ago, add 25 more to it. And that's how long this information has been around for us to be able to talk about. I was questioned this week over the holiday, and it was by a gentleman that is a medical doctor. And he was shared with me his frustration about why he was not permitted to share anything other than what he could get from the pharmacist or the drugstore, and not be able to talk about a more superior person than God and personage of God, the one that gave us life and the ability to learn about what his things were. And we're in a season now that's where it's not in the best interest of people to try to talk about this, because we're being persecuted. We're being saying that you can't talk about plants, but yet and still, the majority of the plants that are there that come from the base of a plant, quite a few, okay? Big percentage. So, and what it did was, this is Dr. Duke speaking now, not Claiborne, but he says, it gives me great pleasure to be alive and well in my late 60s. I must admit, hard time during my 65th year. And that was the reason, because his father and two of his brothers died at age 65. So here he is wondering if at age 65 it's going to be his demise as well. And what happened, to give you update, the two brothers and his father at age 65 died of colon cancer or cancer of the gastrointestinal tract. Now it so happens they had also retired at this age. So Dr. Duke decided that I'm not going to retire, because it must be something to do with that. You know, I'm a little superstitious about that. So he stayed on with the U.S. Department of Agriculture and made it to 66 without developing colon cancer. But the fear was there. And that's one of the things that I think it activates the negative endorphins inside of us. It may not be, maybe another word for that, but anyway, it activates the stuff inside of us, and we fall into the trap of letting the nervous system communicate with the brain and saying, hey, look, you can go ahead and check out now because you're ready to die, because you're afraid you're not going to live. Kind of crazy, but that's kind of some truth in that. And he was looking at what could have been some of the food items that could have contributed to his brothers and his father dying at 65. And so they grew up as good old boys in rural Alabama, eating what rednecks used to eat: high fiber, low fat, country diet. But then they became successful insurance salesmen and began eating more meat and potatoes, then more meat, less potatoes. And I think that changed the diet like that. He thinks it killed them. That's Dr. Duke. It's as simple as that. It was especially bad that they abandoned what did they give up and go to the more meat and potatoes? First of all, they abandoned the cornbread, gave up the peas, the cabbage, green beans, lima beans, collards, turnip greens of their youth. Yeah, I remember those types of things on the table, me coming along. And then he said that as a rebellious son that I am, I cut down on the meats and returned to an all high fiber, low fat food, and my father had stopped eating. It turned out that this is a diet rich in cancer preventing chemicals from plants we call phytochemicals. Now I'm going to go back, and this is the part that just look at this as to what was the diet, and then when the diet changed, then the body didn't have what it needed to keep on going down, and the thing called birthdays interacted with it, and they were not eating these items. So give you a chance to kind of write these down, because these are just plain long good old food that helps the body do what it needs to do to keep us walking and talking and having healthy and well-being. Okay, they abandoned the cornbread, peas, cabbage, green beans, lima beans, collard, turnip greens of the youth of the people. So, what can we do and what can be said according to Dr. Duke? He says the next part of the subchapter is food as preventive medicine. Food as preventive medicine. We're probably expecting me to name a number of individual herbs in this chapter. So, as I do in all other chapters, but I simply can't do that here. One definition of herb, the one I favor, is any plant that can be used as a healing agent. As our understanding of the healing powers of plants continues to grow, so does the number of plants that can be called herbs. If these days the definition embrace many of our foods, so be it. When it comes to preventing cancer, the key seems to be eating a wide variety of fruits and vegetables, many as possible. That's what he's saying. In a sense, then, if you want to lower your risk of cancer, you can create a whole diet, excluding or minimizing meat and dairy products that consist of healing herbs. So singularly out individual plants would be giving you a false picture for how to use herbs to prevent cancer. In other words, there is a variety, there is a multitude of plants and that we have as food items. But what has happened now, we've got it where it's made in a plant, put in a can, and the power of the freshness of the fruits and vegetables are not there for us. If you want to lower your risk of cancer, you can create a whole diet, excluding or minimizing meats and dairy products that consist of healing herbs. So singularly out individual plants would be to give you a false picture of how to use herbs to prevent cancer. Okay? Dr. Duke says, I was one of the first of high fiber flakes back before nutritionists developed the importance of what they used to call roughage. As a matter of fact, my everyday diet turned out to be higher in fiber than the high fiber diets that I was fed as volunteer in the 5 formal USDA studies. And he was involved in these studies, USDA. I know because I was one of the subjects in these studies. Of course, I can't prove that my dad's high fiber diet killed him, or that my plant-based diet spared me from becoming a cancer statistic. But the research is very close, very clear As fat and meat consumption increases, cancer rate rises. But as fruit and vegetable consumption increases, thereby lowering fat in the diet and increasing the amount of fiber and healthful phytochemical, cancer rates fall. The next little chapter right here with Dr. Duke, it says we're fighting the wrong battle. The National Cancer Institute has been waging this war on cancer, he says, 30 years. Now listen, this book was written in 1997. So you're talking about, say, 50 years. So the last 50 years, the National Cancer Institute has waged a war on cancer, but in every year reported up until 1996, cancer deaths were increasing. According to the National Cancer Institute, their statistics said that. Some of the increases have to be due with the fact that fewer people are dying of heart disease and stroke, so they live long enough to get cancer. But considering all the money and all the efforts this country has invested in beating cancer, we don't have a whole lot to show for it. Next part of this chapter. Lifestyle keys to locking out cancer. Cancer prevention includes or involves many of the same wise moves involved in preventing many other diseases. You should make the effort to get, and I'm going to list you a list of things here. This is what we need to do more of if we want to lessen the statistics about cancer. All right, these are vital points. More vegetables and less fruits. Less fat and red meat. Okay, that's one point. Another point, greater variety in your diet, less being monotonous. Put some things in it, make a difference. That's why multivitamin is very critical, because it has usually more than the daily recommendation of the Food and Drug Administration. And you're not if you're eating the same thing over and over again and you're not getting a variety of the trace minerals, then that's why I like my green foods. I like my barley green, my spirulina, my blue-green algae, wheatgrass, barley grass. Those to me are what can help the body have what's known as longevity. Okay? Here's another point. More cereals and whole grains, less processed sugar. When you go and you pick out these little bars that we eat for breakfast and the different things, look at the sugar content and what's in there and what is available for the consumption of our bodies to be able to have something to work with. Processed, not raw, and we need more cereals and whole grains, less processed sugar. Okay? Next point. More natural food colors, less or fewer artificial colors. Look up what the contraindication is for us to have in our diet, the red dye, the blue dye, and the diseases that are associated with these dyes. So, natural food color, not chemicals. You can look them up. I've got a couple books that's all it does. Red dye number 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be, will tell you the side effect of them. More herbal spices, fewer artificial flavorings. You know, we just finished the season, still and carrying on here in January 2022. We use cinnamon, nutmeg, spices that would help, that are natural, that have curative benefits. And I say that because the studies will tell you that you can have something invigorate the body we live in because of the spices we eat and have been tested to do so. More natural, whole foods, fewer processed foods. In the whole foods, you know, I will share with you before we finish this program today about the 5 things that what Dr. Duke called his 5-aid. 5 things he put into a blender and he used them to help. Yeah, I want to give you that information before we leave this broadcast. Okay, let me go up. Processed foods, artificial colorings, more natural whole foods, fewer processed foods, more estrogen-like chemicals from plants, which you call phytoestrogens, fewer synthetic hormones. Know the point. More fruits and vegetable juices, fewer alcoholic beverages, more fresh air, less smoke, and pollution-filled air, more tranquility and less stress. That needs to be a New Year's resolution. More tranquility and less stress. More exercise, less television. Well, hopefully the last is not this program. Why don't you put the bike in front of the TV and do a little exercise, or get that little mini trampoline and go to work on it, and you can be doing the exercise while you watch Remedy This Naturally. More public greenery, less pavement. Yeah. Thank goodness that some of all this pavery has trees and blooms and flowers. We know we need it, so we settled for less. More organic gardens and farms, fewer pesticides. More herbal alternatives, fewer pharmaceutical magic bullets. More herbal alternatives, less pharmaceutical magic bullets. And our philosophy is this: we'll eat what we want, do what we want, because they got the magic bullet to bring me back out of this, to help me get well again, help me overcome what I haven't been doing right with my body, my soul, and my spirit. Over the years, many new chemotherapy drugs have been developed, and some work pretty well to extend life, although they do not cure cancer. And some of the best of these chemotherapeutics come from plants. Taxol, a treatment for ovarian and breast cancer, originally from the Pacific yew tree. Got it from one of God's plants, yew tree. Learn how to rob the active ingredient, Taxol, and help you to overcome that ovarian and breast cancer. Yew tree, God's pharmacy from the plant. Eptoside, I'll spell it, Etoposide, is a treatment for testicular cancer and small cell lung cancer from the mayapple. And vinblastine and vincristine, which treat Hodgkin's disease, leukemia, and lymphomas, both from the Madagascar periwinkle. And you're looking at the person that was in charge of the USDA till he was 67 years old, written multiple books, went and found the plants so the pharmaceuticals could find out what the active ingredient was and not give you the plant but give you the chemical. But as far as I'm concerned, this is Dr. Duke speaking, something is very wrong with the way the National Cancer Institute has approached cancer. The vast majority of the NCI research money, your and my tax dollars, has gone for the development of chemotherapeutics with comparatively little devoted to prevention. Chemotherapeutics have their place in the grand scheme of things, but they're not cures. They are usually life extenders that add a few months or years to average survival. But those months or years are often low quality time because of the many side effects that chemotherapy drugs cause. From 1977 to 1982, Dr. Duke was involved in the National Cancer Institute's page. Tell you what, get that page one way or the other. Screening program. A multi-year effort that investigated the cancer treatment potential of thousands of plant compounds and gave us one mentioned above. But I've been involved with the Embryonic Designer Food Program for the National Institute of Health, which is attempting to design foods high in healthful phytochemicals to prevent cancer. Dr. Duke says, I have a great respect for the potential of the food program than I do for the results of the drug finding program. Clearly, cancer prevention programs can save lives and treatment programs can. In other words, it can save more lives. And as a fraction of the cost, still the 30-year-old cure-oriented war on cancer gets the most tax dollars, while prevention programs get very, very little. Now, I promised you something. I promised you to share with you Dr. Duke's Strive for 5-Aid. You heard of all these Gladiaid and so forth. I recently, Dr. Duke speaking, concocted a most attractive 5-Aid. First, I diced up 1 apple, 2 carrots, a section of 1 lime, and 1 pink grapefruit. That was an apple, 2 carrots, lime, and pink grapefruit. Toss them in the blender and just covered them with water. The resulting beverage was the color of orange sherbet. Just like the artificial orange sherbet my dad used to buy me in Durham. And this Dr. Duke, North Carolinian. By drinking the 5-Aid for breakfast, I did all of my striving for the 5 before lunch. When I made another batch and divided it, I froze some of the like sherbet, and same as pops with popsicles, and put them in the stick, and he said share them with his grandkids. He said they would want it sweeter, I'm sure, but I could fool them with stevia, an herb that is a good substitute for sugar and artificial sweetener. It is available at Remedy This Naturally. He just said herb shops. I'm going to tell you the one that I prefer going to. You can open a tea bag and add a pinch to the beverage. Dr. Duke says, almost all of my documents on cancer have to do with prevention. Yes, by all means, let us develop effective, gentle treatments, but I think it's more important and more cost-effective to work to prevent this disease. Let's see if we can't cover these other things right here, and I'm going to give you, these are not an encompassed list of herbs, foods, but they're just the ones that he took in this book and in the Green Pharmacy, and just when he's talking about cancer. So at 20 plus 25, 45 years ago, long before science reached a consensus on the fact that a diet high in fruits and vegetables helps prevent cancer, and long before the National Cancer Institute began urging everyone to strive for five servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Prevention magazine, remember that was a magazine called Prevention, got bought out and dumped. Prevention magazine asked me for ideas on cancer prevention. I came up with several. A big green salad or coleslaw being a redneck favorite in his family. A big bowl of minestrone soup, and a cancer prevention herbal salad. So this is what they were working on, National Cancer Institute. Let's see here. I'm sure you know how to make a fine salad, a green one that is, and plenty of good slaw and minestrone recipes are available, so I won't dwell on that. And it's impossible to so many different vegetables. Try to include a great variety of fruits and vegetables in all dishes and in all diets as you possibly can. Dr. Duke says, my herbal salad recipe is a little more obscure, so I'll discuss it more fully. I'm going to talk about that right now, okay? Cancer prevention herbal salad. At the core of the recipe are several plants. I lifted with thanks from Jonathan Hartwell's a Ethobotanical Classic Plants Used Against Cancer. Plants Used Against Cancer, and that was Dr. Jonathan Hartwell. It has a compendium of about 3,000 plants cited in the medical folklore literature for treating cancer. More than half of Hartwell's plants turn out to contain a compound useful in the treatment of some types of cancer, at least in the test tube. My cancer program of prevention salad now includes garlic, onions, red peppers, tomatoes, red clover flowers, chopped cooked beets, fresh calendula flowers, celery, fresh chicory flowers, chives, cucumbers, coumarin, peanuts, poke salad, purslane, and sage. In addition, I came up with a cancer prevention dressing to use with this salad. It includes flaxseed oil, evening primrose, garlic, rosemary, a dash of lemon juice, and the Latin American favorite, hot peppers. 15 years after Dr. Duke here, James A. Duke, PhD, I developed my salad here in 1989. Herman Pearson, PhD, and the NIH called to invite my participation into the Designer Food Program for Cancer Prevention. This was a major national effort to manipulate foods to increase their content of nutraceuticals, that would be nutrients with medical value. The idea was to enhance the amount of cancer-fighting chemicals in a food, either by manipulating the plant's genes or by coming up with necessary techniques that would preserve or enhance the desired medical effects. Or how about medicinal effects? Dr. Pearson was more interested in my database of chemical phytochemicals. Stop, Claiborne. Dr. Pearson was most interested in my database of medicinal phytochemicals in food plants and herbs, which included anti-cancer compounds, the same ever-evolving database on which this book is based. It invited me to attend a meeting where experts would explain the cancer prevention benefits of various plants. Imagine my delight when my colleagues and fellow researchers spoke about the anti-cancer phytochemicals, but they were finding in plants. Now, I said something a minute ago, something that was involved in the plants, and there was a ingredient in the plants that was very valuable. My fellow scientists gave great attention on the sulfides in garlic, the capsicum and red peppers, in the limousine and citrus fruits, the lycopene in tomatoes. They trotted the cancer-fighting potential of some herbs as flax, licorice, and rosemary. Ever since that conference, I've been adding rosemary to my salad dressings. The Designer Food program clearly had a lot going for it. I got excited about the program and eagerly anticipated 5 years of helping the NIC in the area. But alas, Dr. Pearson left the NIC, and the program now seems to have less visible and exciting. But in the last paragraph on the cancer part of the book, The Green Pharmacy, fortunately, research on the medicinal potential of foods in going forward in other programs and in institutions throughout the nation. Over the next several years, you'll be hearing a lot more about nutraceuticals, phytoceuticals, meals that heal foods, and traditional medicinal herbs clearly have healing properties and including the ability to prevent cancer. Just one little part. And you can go in here. I just hit one thing because it touches everybody's lives today. And then when we get into here and all the things that Dr. Duke scouring the world over, he came up with things in the plant kingdom that are for allergies, altitude sickness, Alzheimer's disease, a member for memory, angina, arthritis, asthma, athlete's foot. And I'll just lay this out for you. In the content B, backache. Content C, we talked about cancer prevention, canker sores, or the other ones. D, dandruff, depression, diabetes. E, emphysema. F, fainting, fever, flatulence. G, gallstones, Graves' disease. H, hangover, headache, heartburn. And I'm just getting the first couple ones. Indigestion, infertility, lice, liver problems, macular degeneration, nausea, osteoporosis, overweight, pain, Parkinson's disease, sciatica, skin problems, tendinitis, toothache, ulcers, vaginitis, warts, yeast infections. Then he has his postscript here talking about it is a lifetime of loving plants. And even in the back of it, there's, and I just opened up to this one sporadically, is going to it, candicidal soup, what to do with cranberries, love in the jungle. Folks, my mission is to keep God's pharmacy alive. My mission is to let you know that there's more for us to know, and going back to the original. I read something over the last couple of weeks that says we need to get God out of. Folks, you can if you want to. You want to die early because of doing it man's way and not God's way. And, you know, the thing about it is, when we were youngins growing up, and we had those crazy years, what didn't kill us made us better, and we can go into what God has for us. And we can go and learn that there's a foundation greater than man's foundation. Here again, Adam and Eve got the butts kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Why? Because they said they could do it better than God. I'm proud of you that give yourself the gift of making sure you give God a chance. The other thing, just kind of show I spent a little more time on those things, and what I was going to bring up to you and show you this. This right here is a book. Easy recipes and recommendations during and after treatment. Eating well through cancer. Why does it have to get to the point where we got something to correct? And if we would put these into effect beforehand. Okay? Just saying. Just saying. They did a whole book. Holly Clegg and Gerald Meletino, medical doctor. Think about it. If something can be made to keep us here longer by treatment, what can happen if we do that as prevention so we don't have to go through keep me alive a little longer, but with what cost of how we are in our bodies, our minds, our soul, and our spirit? You are made in the image and likeness of God. Just because you could be rebellious at this point in life does not mean that you cannot switch around to what God has for you to become. More and more, we need to reach out. And if you want to come in and use it in some supplement form, you don't want to take time to eat right, and because of your schedule won't permit it, get some supplements, get some information from Remedy This Naturally. And starting off a new year, check out the cafe, check out the contract post office, and most of all, check out what is there for you to be able to have a better quality of life and do it with God's remedies. That's why it's natural. Go natural. I'm going to break off here so Lee can play the little commercial showing different things that are in Remedy This Naturally. I'm looking forward to a 2022 to be the best it can be. Love you guys greatly. Wish you the best, but most of all, I wish you His love as you give it and receive it. I'm your host, Claiborne Holtzman. Good day. God bless. Talk to you later.